Experts widely agree that storytelling is far more memorable and persuasive than just presenting dry facts and figures on their own. Yet many podcast guests overlook this crucial strategy and turn up to their interviews just unprepared, which ultimately limits their ROI from the start. Today, I'm going to show you how to tell stories that win the hearts of listeners and, most importantly, win customers. Say your software helped a customer grow their email list by 70% in 3 months. Impressive, right? But instead of just saying that, you could say something better. Okay, hear me out. One of my favorite success stories is about a customer called Alex. I remember last year, he'd posted this amazing 5-star review of us, so I got in contact with him and he told me how just 3 months earlier, he was barely scraping by with his online store. He'd spent the best part of a year trying to reach his audience and just failing miserably. His social media posts were getting 10 likes max and sales were pretty dry. So he was close to throwing in the towel and taking up extra shifts at his part-time job. But he came across our platform and decided to give it a try, at least as this last-ditch effort to get his business off the ground. He identified his target audience, created a lead magnet, and launched a couple of targeted outreach campaigns. And from there, he was able to slowly start building his email list. It wasn't easy at first. There were weeks when he felt like the results just weren't coming in fast enough, but he stayed consistent and he followed the best practices that we've outlined within the platform. And then it started happening slowly but surely. On day 14, he hit 100 new subscribers. Then he hit 500, 1,000, 5,000. Within those first 3 months, Alex's email list grew by 70%. And for the first time, he had a giant waiting list of customers ready to buy his products. And he finally quit his part-time job. Of course, success doesn't happen overnight, but email definitely still works if you do it the right way, Okay, so let's just pause there and just compare the two approaches. The simple fact approach and the story approach. Which one are you more likely to remember? The story, right? Because that's what's going to create the connection and inspire listeners to take action, not your impressive stats on their own. So that story I just told follows a simple structure that you can use too. First, hook the listeners in. Then describe the struggle. What challenge was your customer facing? Then outline how you helped them overcome it. Add some tension or conflict. And then it's the transformation part where you highlight the tangible and emotional outcomes. Finally, highlight the takeaway in a way that ties it back to your audience. When you're telling the story, remember that it isn't about you. It's about your audience, right? They should see themselves in your customer's journey, which means you have to focus on challenges, emotions, and ambitions that they can relate to. Now, the audience of every podcast is unique. So even if you're sharing the same story across different shows, it's important to tailor how you frame it. Here's an example for you. Say you have an app to help boost productivity. If you're on a business podcast, you could talk about how it helped Zoe implement systems that scaled her company and gave her back control of her time. But if you're on, say a wellness podcast, you might talk about how Zoe went from working 12-hour days to finally having time, pick up her kids from school. Do you see how tweaking the takeaways makes it resonate with different audiences? That's how you make your story stick. Now let's talk about pacing, all right? Because how you tell your story is just as important as what you say. We were lucky enough to talk with Jason Gunn recently, a communication coach who recommends using a traffic light system. Green is where you speed up and add layer of excitement. Orange is a steady pace that you stay at for the majority of the story. Red is where you slow down or even pause for impactful moments. Using the example from earlier, I might want to speed up to match the excitement that I'm feeling from seeing the notification landing in my inbox. Then I'd keep it steady, all the way up to where the subscriber numbers are increasing. I'd then add contrast by using a slow pace to drive home the results that Alex achieved. Another way you can really bring your story to life is by thinking about the language you use. So there's a difference between saying that the office was chaotic and talking about how the phones were constantly ringing, paperwork was everywhere, and everyone was rushing around, right? And there's a difference between saying that the campaign worked and saying that the client couldn't keep up with the demand and customers were lining up outside the door. You know, instead of saying that search engine optimization takes time, you could say it's like planting a garden. Instead of saying she worked hard on the campaign, say she poured her heart and soul into the campaign. Can you see the difference? And don't be afraid to inject a little humor here and there as well. So the next time you're a podcast guest, don't just share the results you or your customers have achieved. Tell a story. Use the right structure, use the traffic light system, and paint a vivid picture. This way, you're going to win more customers for your business. By the way, if you're looking to book more podcast guest spots, don't forget to check out Raphonic's free trial. It's a database of over 3 million shows with listener numbers, social reach, contact information, and loads more stuff. The link is in the description.